Ames. And on the night of my 75th birthday, in a dining room that smelled of money I had never touched, my younger sister Vivian looked across the long polished table and asked me, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Delilah, tell me, are you enjoying your $500,000 trust fund?" The fork in my son Reggie's hand stopped halfway to his mouth. My daughter-in-law Chelsea turned the color of wet plaster. My grandchildren upstairs probably never even heard the bomb that had just exploded. But the three adults in that room heard every syllable. I stared at Vivian, confused, the words floating in the air like smoke I couldn't catch. "What trust fund?" I finally whispered. And in the silence that followed, heavier than any silence I have ever known, I understood that the life I had been living for the past 5 years, the cramped apartment, the $750 monthly pension, the nights I went to bed hungry so I could pay the electric bill, had all been a lie built on money that was mine and mine alone. My husband, Jeremiah, had died 5 years earlier from a sudden heart attack. He handled every bill, every paper, every decision. I signed where he pointed and never asked questions because that was what good wives did. When he was gone, Reggie took over everything. The funeral, the lawyer meetings, the sale of our little house. He told me there had been debts, that the house had to be sold to cover them, that all that remained was a small pension and a paid-off grave plot. I believed him because he was my son, because mothers believe their children, because I had spent 70 years learning to swallow whatever I was given and call it love. So I moved into a one-bedroom unit in a building called the Heights, where the walls were thin and the pipes groaned like old men, and I lived on less than $800 a month while Reggie and Chelsea built a 3-story palace with marble floors and a swimming pool I was invited to exactly twice a year. I was the invisible woman long before any of this happened. I was born in 1950 in a small Georgia town where girls were taught to keep quiet, to keep sweet, to keep other people comfortable. I married Jeremiah at 19 because that was what you did. I had my daughter Annette at 21 and Reggie at 24. Annette died at 32 in a car wreck that took her and my 2 little grandbabies before I ever got to hold the second one. After that, Reggie became my whole world. I cleaned offices at night so he could go to college. I sold my wedding ring, the one Jeremiah had saved 6 months to buy me, so Reggie could finish his business degree without loans. I never once asked for anything back. Mothers don't keep score, I told myself. Mothers sacrifice. Mothers disappear so their children can shine. When Jeremiah died, I disappeared completely. Reggie handled everything, and I let him. He told me not to worry about the paperwork, that he would take care of his mama. I thanked him. I thanked him for selling the only home I had ever known. I thanked him for moving me into a place where the stove had 2 working burners and the refrigerator hummed like it was about to give up. I thanked him every time he handed me $200 and said it was all he could spare this month. I thanked him while I ate plain rice for dinner and wore the same 3 dresses until the elbows wore through. I thanked him because thanking him was easier than asking why my only remaining child lived like a king, while his mother counted pennies to buy oatmeal the night of my 75th birthday. Reggie had insisted on throwing me a dinner. He called 3 weeks early, voice bright and strange, saying Chelsea was planning something special, that the kids wanted to see Grandma. I almost said no. Birthdays had stopped meaning anything after Jeremiah died, but the thought that maybe, just maybe, my son was finally seeing me made me say yes. My neighbor Pet helped me fix my hair and lent me a navy shawl so I wouldn't look quite so poor. She hugged me at the door and whispered, "If anything feels wrong tonight, Delilah, you speak up. You hear me?" I laughed it off. I was just going to dinner with family. What could go wrong? Everything. Reggie sent a rideshare to pick me up. The driver wished me happy birthday and I smiled like someone who still believed in such things. When I walked into their house, the air smelled of money, roasted meat, fresh flowers, expensive wine. Chelsea wore a dress that cost more than my rent for half a year. The grandchildren gave me quick hugs and vanished upstairs. Reggie's smile was too wide. Chelsea's kisses floated an inch from my cheeks. And 30 minutes into the evening the doorbell rang. Reggie went pale. Chelsea dropped her wineglass but caught it before it shattered. I thought it was a late delivery. Then I heard the voice I hadn't expected. Vivian, my 70-year-old baby sister, the one who had built an empire while I built a family, walking in with a gold-wrapped gift and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Reggie hadn't invited her. That much was clear from the look on his face. Vivian hugged me hard, the kind of hug that squeezes truth into your bones, and sat down beside me like she belonged there. Conversation stayed light until the salmon was served and the grandchildren had been excused. Then Vivian set her fork down, took a sip of wine, looked straight at me. and asked the question that ended one life and began another. Delilah, tell me, are you enjoying your $500,000 trust fund? I didn't understand the words at first. They floated, meaningless. Then they landed, and the room tilted. What trust fund? I heard myself ask, voice small and cracked. Vivian's eyes narrowed. She turned to Reggie and Chelsea the way a prosecutor turns to the defendant. What did you two do with the money? She asked, ice in every syllable. Reggie tried to laugh it off. Chelsea bolted for the bathroom. The children stayed upstairs, blissfully unaware that downstairs their perfect world was collapsing. Vivian laid it out, calm and merciless. 5 years earlier, the day Jeremiah's will was read, she had been there as a witness. Jeremiah had left everything, the house sale, the savings, the life insurance policies, rolled into an irrevocable trust worth $500,000, with instructions that I was to receive $4,000 every month for the rest of my life. Reggie had been named administrator, not owner. The money was never his to touch except to deliver it to me. I stared at my son. My son stared at the tablecloth. Chelsea still hadn't come back from the bathroom. Vivian dialed Elias Carter, the estate attorney, right there at the dinner table. He arrived 40 minutes later carrying a briefcase thick with proof, bank records, transfer documents, signatures. Every zero Reggie had stolen stared back at me from those pages. $50,000 for the down payment on the house, $100,000 for renovations, $30,000 for Chelsea's SUV, $25,000 for private school tuition. On and on, until almost nothing remained. I listened to the numbers, the way you listen to a foreign language you suddenly understand. $4,000 a month times 60 months was $240,000 I had never seen. While I sold my mother's silver to pay the electric bill, my son had used my money to install marble countertops and a swimming pool I was too ashamed to swim in because I didn't own a decent bathing suit. When Elias Carter finished, the dining room was so quiet I could hear my own heart breaking. Reggie finally looked up, eyes red, mouth trembling. Mama, I can explain, he began. I raised my hand. For the first time in my life, I stopped him before he could finish a sentence. No, I said, and my voice didn't shake. You've explained enough for 5 years. I stood up. My legs were steady, even though everything else inside me was coming apart. Take me home, Vivian, I said. Reggie tried to follow us to the door, begging, promising, crying. I didn't look back. The ride to my apartment was silent. When Vivian pulled up outside the building with the flickering hallway light and the broken elevator, she turned off the engine. You don't have to go up there tonight, she said. Come stay with me. I shook my head. I've been alone for 5 years, I told her. One more night won't kill me. It almost did. I sat on my sagging couch in the dark and cried until there was nothing left. Then I cried some more, because the tears weren't just sadness, they were rage, humiliation, grief for the life I should have had and the mother I had been. At 3 a.m., Pet knocked on my door with 2 mugs of tea. I told her everything. When I finished, she took my hands and said, Delilah, tonight you stopped swallowing poison. That's the first day of the rest of your life. The weeks that followed were a blur of paperwork and decisions. Elias Carter laid it all out. Criminal charges could put Reggie in prison for years. A civil suit could bankrupt him, or we could force a private settlement, sell the house, the cars, liquidate everything, and pay me monthly for the rest of my life or his, whichever came first. I chose the settlement, not out of softness, but because I wanted my money faster than the courts could give it to me, and because I wanted Reggie to live every single day knowing exactly what his greed had cost him. It took 6 months. The house sold. The cars were gone. Chelsea got a job at a department store. The grandchildren switched to public school. Every month, $3,000 appeared in my new account like clockwork. Because the alternative was prison and Reggie knew it. Elias set up a new trust, this time with me as the only person who could touch it. When the final numbers were tallied, I had just over $300,000 left of the original $500,000, plus the monthly payments that would continue until the debt was paid, or Reggie died trying. I moved out of the Heights. The day the first big check cleared, I rented a 2-bedroom apartment with a balcony that catches the sunrise and a kitchen, big enough for more than one person at a time. I bought real coffee. I bought a new dress that fit. I joined a painting class and discovered I could make sunsets look the way they feel in my chest. I started speaking twice a month at the senior center for women whose children had taken everything and left them with nothing. I told them my story, every ugly detail, and watched their eyes light up with the same realization that had saved me. We are allowed to stop being quiet. Reggie calls once a month now. The conversations are short. He tells me the children are adjusting. He asks if I need anything. I tell him I needed something for 5 years and he wasn't there. Then I hang up. Forgiveness is a long road, and I'm not ready to walk it yet. Maybe I never will be. Some betrayals are too big for sorry to cover. Vivian comes to visit every few weeks. We drink real coffee on my balcony and laugh about things we never laughed about before. Pet moved into the building, across the street, so we can have tea every afternoon. My grandchildren text sometimes, awkward messages about school projects and new friends. I answer. I don't close the door, but I don't open it wide either. They will have to earn their way back, the same way their father now earns every dollar he sends me. This morning, I stood on my balcony watching the sun come up over a city I finally belong to. I am 76 years old. I have money in the bank that no one can take from me. I have a voice no one can silence anymore. I have a life that is finally, completely, mine. They stole 5 years from me and called it love. I took the rest of my years back and called it justice. My name is Delilah Ames, and for the first time in 76 years, I am not invisible.